Hey, today we are talking about proof summaries and how to prove yourself on FamilySearch, because sometimes people have conflicting information, and maybe because that's a world collaborative tree that people have different opinions. And so if you want to prove what you think is correct, that sometimes comes with a proof summary. And so we're going to talk about that today. This was kind of inspired from a viewer question about how to prove their findings on FamilySearch when others are contributing to that world collaborative tree. And if you're new to genealogy, FamilySearch is one big tree that everybody contributes to, but not everybody always agrees on the facts. So we're going to talk about how to do that. And so I will answer that question coming up next. Welcome back to another episode on Genealogy TV. If you are new here, my name is Connie Knox. I am a professional genealogist here to help you go further, faster, and factually with your family history research. Now, there is a handout for this episode. For those who are eligible for the handouts, links are in the description on how to find that. We'll talk more about that a little bit later. So the question was, how do I prove the findings? That's what this viewer was asking. How do I prove my findings when others disagree on FamilySearch? And so we're going to kind of talk about that. But basically what I wrote her back in the comments was I suggested that she write a proof summary and upload it to the Memories tab on FamilySearch. Now, and then also add an alert, which I'm going to show you how to do all of that. And we're going to briefly talk about proof summaries here in just a moment. But just to review, there are actually three types of proof documents, right? So there's proof statements, summaries, and arguments. So we'll talk about all of those here in just a moment. And by the way, I did a three-part series at the Genealogy TV Academy, just finished it a few weeks ago, called Finding Proof. And it goes really in depth into this subject. So today what we're doing is just briefly talking about one tiny little component of finding proof. But if you are a Genealogy TV Academy member, you may be aware of that, or if you're new to the Academy, I think that is one of those series that I think you will find beneficial. Okay, so a proof statement. Let's talk about that for a moment. A proof statement is simply a sentence or two with sources that states your fact. So you're trying to prove something. You're saying, hey, this is the way it is because of this documentation. Simple. Doesn't take more than a sentence or two. And for those who are following my way of doing research notes, you do this every time you put an entry into your research notes. You're actually writing a proof statement. Jane Doe was born at this time in this place because of this christening document, or whatever it is, right? So those are little mini proof statements every time you fill out, you add to your research notes. A proof summary is what we're really going to kind of get into today. I think this is probably the most common document that the hobbyist genealogist would use. And so that's kind of what we're going to talk about today, but it's a little more detailed. It outlines the evidence. It takes care of any minor conflicts and resolutions there, and then talks about the conclusion. And of course, all the sources are cited, right? We can't have proof without our sources, okay? And then a proof argument is really more complex. It may require multiple conflicts to be resolved in order to come to one big conclusion. It may have multiple pages. It may have graphs, maps, tables in order to outline all the evidence and how they all line up. And of course, your conclusion. Oh, and with your sources. Yes, that's right. Everything has to have a source for proof. Let's review the outline for a proof summary, because that's really the subject of today's video. Okay. So first of all, what do you include? I usually put a header at the top. This is, a proof summary, or a title at the top, proof summary. And then you might want to put your name as the author so that you can give some credibility to the document in which you are creating, right? I do not advise, if you're going to be uploading this anywhere publicly, don't put your personal contact information on there. They can always reach out to you through FamilySearch or whatever platform it is you're uploading this document to. Okay. Then you can add that proof summary once you've created it to FamilySearch. Okay. And then you could also add the alert there as well. Okay, let's talk about the outline of a proof summary. What do you need in a proof summary? Well, a proof summary really starts with the research question that you have in mind, or the conflict that is, going on there. So a lot of times that's one and the same. So if you're trying to resolve somebody's name, my grandmother was born with one name in Denmark, and in the United States, she had a different name. So I might want to do a proof summary to show that she did in fact change her name, and that these two different names are in fact one person. Okay, so I would state that as the opening paragraph in my proof summary. Then I would list all the evidence found as it relates to the research question. You don't list everything, whether if it's irrelevant, it's irrelevant. Don't list it. But you would list all of the evidence found and a brief comment about what's in it. In the case of my great-grandmother and her name change, then it might say, here's a christening document with her parents listed, and here's her name here. And then in the United States, here's an obituary that has, a history of her life, and that she immigrated to the United States and her parents were the same names that are on the christening document, right? So you're getting the idea. So we're listing the evidence found, okay? And then we kind of go through that document analysis briefly for each one of those documents. For example, the christening document, is an original document. It was found here. And by the way, of course, your sources are in the footnotes of this document. Okay. And you always want to be finding the original documents whenever possible. An index is secondary evidence, so you want to try and find that primary evidence whenever possible. So you're outlining all of that evidence, and then you're explaining your conclusion. So with the conclusion, you're now stating, okay, I believe this to be the case because of XYZ evidence. Here's, where these documents correlate. That's where we're comparing documents, and we're weighing that evidence found, right? And then once we have done that, we have come to our conclusion, and we state that in a conclusion paragraph. Okay, so that's a simple version of a proof summary. So here is a brief proof summary that I wrote for the Academy, the 3-part series. This is just a brief example, but it starts with that research question. This story went into the fact that there was severe conflicts with his wife's death date, so we needed to resolve that. Then I went through and I listed out the evidence that was appropriate for this research question. Of course, I listed all of the source citations in the bottom, and I continue to list here on the next page, and then I went through my conclusion as to what happened. It kind of went into a couple of different paragraphs that I had to explain what was going on. And so, long story short, that is my quick and dirty example of a proof summary. And as you can see, this was 3 pages long. So you can do the same. Question, lay out the evidence. You might have to correlate your evidence, weigh your evidence, right? You're giving your evidence weight as to how accurate it is. And then you come to your conclusion and you write your conclusion. Bada bing, you're done, right? Now, you might want to put your name up top to show that you are the author in case somebody has any questions, or later on, you come across new information, you may update this or change this or whatever. So now let's talk about how you would upload this document over on FamilySearch. So here I am on FamilySearch, and I'm in the same profile that I was in when I was talking about the example that I had of a proof summary. So this is the default page. It typically comes to the details tab. You want to jump over to either sources or memories. I'm going to go to sources just because, it's a source, in my opinion, when you create a proof summary, a proof statement, a proof document, whatever it is, any document that you create and you're going to upload here, you would then add source, and then you would say new memory. You don't want to add a source here because it's going to what book is it? What repository was it in? You want this new memory source here. And then you would add the date Now, you might want to add the dates that is relevant to the evidence that's inside the document, not necessarily the date, in my opinion, that you wrote it. So you could put that stuff in the notes, the citation area down here, but what you would want to do is, like, if the document that the proof summary that you have created surrounds around these conflicting death dates between, say, 1865 and I don't know, 1880. I'm making it up. But then I would put those date ranges in there. So you would go like 1865 to, whoops, 1880. And see, it automatically starts to write it for you. So that's what it wants. So click on that. And then you could title it Proof Summary for Wife of Hilkiah. And you notice I'm putting this in Hilkiah's profile. And the reason for that is because, spoiler alert, there were 2 wives. And that's why, and both by the same name. And that's why there was conflicting death dates. That was very confusing, because when you have 2 women by the same name, and it turns out that they're, 2 different women. So that's why I'm putting it here. Anyway, you could also add the same document to the wives to explain it there as well. Okay. So I'm going to add this memory. If you were to have a web page, like you have your own personal web page with your family history or something, you could put your URL there if you wanted to. Then you would add a source citation. You could add notes. You can also, you don't have to put a reason to attach, but helps resolve the conflict between XYZ, whatever that is. You could also add some tags that might help, right? It depends on what it is. So it might be that you are just resolving some other things, and add a source to my source box. Sure, why not? And hit save. And that's it. Then you would then upload that memory, your document here. So when you click upload, you could then go and pick the document you want from your file folder, wherever you put it, right? So that's how you do that. So back on the details tab here on Family Search, if you go to details and you want to add that alert, I had to do this for my own mother because she's adopted. And when other people were, I didn't even know people had put her name or, on Family Search. And I found her on there, and I'm like, oh, this information's completely wrong. Nobody knows better than the children, right? And so I had to go in there and change her name because they had incorrect names in there for her. So I went in there and I added an alert, and I said, in the alert, I said, hey, I am the daughter. I know this to be true just from personal knowledge. So you could do that, but it really helps to have a proof summary or some sort of documentation when you're doing these alerts. So on the details tab, if you scroll down and it says add notes, you can add a note and you can click this box to make it an alert. And when you do that, it's going to put a banner across the top of the profile right under the name. I'll show you here in a second. It adds this alert there, and it says, hey, before changing anything on this profile, please see the notes section. And so you can write, I have added a proof summary here. You could write whatever. So you put a title in, you write your note. You could put your proof, like if you have a proof statement, which is just a couple sentences, you could do it here. But make sure that you cite your sources, and then you hit save, and it will reside down here in the notes section. And up at the top, up here, there will be a banner that shows up that says, hello, pay attention here before changing anything else on this profile. So that's how you can add an alert to the Family Search Ancestors profile. Now, hopefully that helped you get an understanding of how you can kind of prove yourself on any world collaborative tree. WikiTree is another one that is a world collaborative tree, and you may want to put notes up there as well, and or your proof summary on there. I think that's probably, a proof summary is probably one of the most common ways to prove your case. If there's maybe multiple documents that need to be talked about. If it's just something that can be explained in a sentence or two, then that certainly would be a proof statement. You can do that. But Also know, I always say, I reserve the right to be wrong. Okay. So I say that because new evidence comes along. Maybe at the time I wrote my proof summary, I only had a certain number of documents available to me. And then later on, new evidence comes along. Documents are being uploaded all the time, and new things come along, and I go, oh, this changes everything. Let me go rewrite that document. And then you can remove that document from FamilySearch and upload a new one with your latest and greatest information. Now, let's be kind to each other, because, sometimes little beefs can happen between cousins, let's say, who say, hey, no, this is the way it is. And somebody else says, hey, this is the way it is. So let's try and find the truth. That's what family history is all about. And so, just be nice to each other and say, hey, could it be this way? Also keep in mind that, we don't live forever. So it could be that the person you're trying to reach out to and say, this is not correct, may not be living anymore. So keep that in mind as you are trying to reach out to people, and maybe they're not responding as you wish. So you can always add your information in the memories tab, in the sources area, and add a memory, which is a written document. You can do a Word document. I think you could do maybe a Google document with a hyperlink. Do what you can, but hopefully that is helpful. If you want to get the handout, here's some information about how to do that. There are 4 ways to get the handouts. Now, the first way is to join the channel membership here at the information access level on the YouTube channel, and then go over to the membership tab, and then you can scroll through the posts and find the post that has the links in there, and then all you have to do is download the handouts. Okay, now the second way is over at Patreon. At Patreon, if you're at the Happy Dance level or higher, you can get the handouts. Those come directly to you in an email every time we announce the new video that has a handout with it. Now, the third way is if you are a Genealogy TV Academy member, you have an all-access pass to everything, all the courses and all the handouts and all the videos. And then lastly, if membership does not float your boat, you can go over to the genealogytv.org website and click on the handouts tab, and there you can purchase the handouts for individual purchase. I hope that was helpful. The handouts really do support the channel, and for that, I thank you. How would you feel if you could resolve some of those brick walls in your family tree? Or maybe you're just getting started in genealogy. What if you had the skills to prove your family history, taking you back generation by generation, time and time again? Hi, my name is Connie Knox, and here at the Genealogy TV Academy, I help genealogy enthusiasts like you break down brick walls by learning smart research methods. I help you find the records, and I help you get organized so that you can share your family history with your family and future generations. I do this through a monthly membership course. There are 2 components to this. Now, there is the self-guided platform where you can take the courses on your own time. And well, I'm adding 1 new lesson per month. And then the live Zoom meetings where you can watch a live presentation in the virtual classroom and participate in the discussion after the presentation. Now, if you can't make one of the live sessions, don't worry. All the programs are recorded and are added in the course platform following the presentation. Now, if you have any questions, be sure to see the FAQ section at the bottom of the page. And if you still have any questions, click the contact link, and I'll be glad to answer your questions. So, are you ready to learn some new skills to help prove your family history, get organized, and break down some of those brick walls? All right, well, if you want to learn more, hit the Get Start button to learn a little bit more about pricing and how you can get signed up. All right, we'll see you in the virtual classroom. I hope you learned something about how to write proof summaries. They really are kind of helpful, and I think if nothing else, when you write a proof summary, proof argument, proof statement, whatever, it makes you think, and you go, oh, wait a minute, maybe I missed something. So it does kind of help you review what you have already concluded, right? But it just, and sometimes just saying it out loud, you read that document out loud, and sometimes that will help. So hopefully that was helpful. There is more information on the screen for you now, and come join us at the Genealogy TV Academy. I think it would be fun.